So today we're going to talk about Tonfas. About this style of Tonfa, which is very popular. You see them all over the place online. It's a turnstile. So this was turned on a wood lathe. Each part of this is a mortise and tenon joint right here, and it's got a wedge in the middle. So this piece was turned. You can actually see the teeth of where the turning teeth are, where it held on the machine right here. You see the 4 prongs here. They buffed it off on the edge here, and you can still see remnants of it here. Okay, so they turned it, they spin it, and they turn on the lathe to make these cuts. I've had these Tonfa since I was about 15 years old. Now, at the time I didn't know much about Tonfas, and I didn't know what to look for and how to measure them. What I've discovered is that these Tonfa are not my size. They're actually for someone a little bit smaller forearms or a little bit smaller frame than me. The reason why that this needs to extend a little bit further than my elbow. That's very important. Why is that important? Because if another stick comes at you and you high block, protect yourself, this is still gonna hit me in my elbow, break my elbow. That's a really, really bad problem. The whole purpose of a Tonfa is it's a self-defense weapon to protect you. So you do want a Tonfa to extend a little bit past your elbow. This is basically about 2 inches too short. Now the other issue with this Tonfa is the length is long. I mean, I have a pretty big hand and it's still longer. Also, the lip, you see there's very little lip. There's really not a whole lot of coverage, and I need more coverage that rest my knuckle on, and I don't. So what happens with this style of Tonfa is your hand, when you're spinning, eventually spins out to where the lip is, giving me this big space here, which is really, really not good. The reason why it's not good is because it does this. It rocks too much, and it twists too much, and you end up hitting yourself like I just did. So having a tighter grip, a tighter handle, and a fat, wide head of the handle, that's really going to be important when you're selecting a Tonfa. The other thing that I would recommend, other than the length and the handle grip, is the type of wood. Make sure it's a good sturdy wood. This is a red oak hardwood, which is very good quality for sports equipment. It's very typical for Kobudo weapons, but it has a really nice, cool design, and I really love it. I mean, it's treated me very well over the years, but I just always knew there was going to be some problems. Now, immediately when I bought this one, I remember, again, that was about 15 years ago, the mortise and tenon joint is loose. It was a little weak, and since then it's fallen out. I mean, I use it and I hit the bag, the heavy bag, or I hit the trees, or I hit other weapons whenever I'm training, and it gets loose over time. So be aware when you're buying a Tonfa that be aware of the mortise and tenon joint. This is going to take a major beating in your training, and you're going to notice, like I did, that there's a split in the mortise and tenon, and then they drive another wedge in there. So I've had to actually replace that wedge with another piece of wood and smacked it in there. So what I end up doing is sticking a piece in here and then taking this one like a hammer and smashing it in deeper to get that firm grip, not wobbling. I've even put a nail in it to make sure it didn't come out or fail on me at any point, which I didn't realize at the time wasn't necessary because there was already a wooden dowel that's been peg jointed in there as well for fail-proof measures. But I mean, I've put these through quite a bit of a beating, and they're still going. You know, the real reason why I needed to replace them was because I didn't like this handle, and I knew that this was too short for my arm, which is why I purchased these new Tonfa. So my experience with these new Tonfa is so far has been fantastic. This is the traditional Okinawan Kobudo Tonfa. That 2-inch difference at the end makes a huge difference for protection. As you can see, I have full coverage from my elbow, so any weapon would end up hitting me and up here in the arm, but not on my bone. So that's a really good measure of protection. Also, that 2-inch weight difference makes it much easier for me to spin. Spinning the Tonfa is essential in Tonfa practice. Having enough of the weight at the end and the balance of the Tonfa is actually very, very important, which is why the smaller Tonfa did not work as well with me. I do want to mention another thing about spinning and grip. They're always going to come from the factory with the polyurethane coating finish. Now, this polyurethane is very sticky on the handle, and this is a brand new, so they're very sticky for me. Even with the stickiness, I can still swing them really nicely because of the counterbalance and the weight distribution. But when I look at these ones as a reference, I've had to sand this handle down. I use a 150 grit sandpaper to do that. It works tremendously better. Now I can, even as with the poor weight distribution, the poor balance, these I can still spin. I can spin them all day. I can train with them because I took off that coating. So I would recommend you take off the coating on your handles as well. Going back to the new ones, so that I haven't done that yet because they're brand new, but I'm gonna be doing that in probably a couple minutes. Another thing is what I'm looking at these is the handle. You see, it's big, fat, wide shoulder. There's a shoulder on the handle. Really nice. It's smaller, so my hand, my four fingers and my knuckles meet the handle and meet the stick. So this is a really great handle design. It says that it's tapered online, and I was thinking, well, where's the taper? I don't see the taper. It looks like a regular flat stick. They're actually mentioning this taper right here on the back. Why is that taper so important? Because when you're training, you hit your wrist a lot. When it spins, it knocks you right here at the wrist sometimes, and I get bruised from it. So that part needs to be tapered. You want a Tonfa with this taper at the end. Even a little bit more of a curve would probably be acceptable. Because the reality is you don't want that thing to continue to grind against and hit your bones. The wood is much harder than your bones, so you're gonna lose that battle. The other thing I noticed about this, and one complaint I would say about this, is noticing the wood craftsmanship on the handle. It's not a solid turn piece on the handle. This was actually, I don't know if you can see that, but it's actually joined, flat plain join. So basically there's no joinery used with the mortise and tenon. It's just glued together basically. And so what I'm worried about is that in some techniques, when you're using a Tonfa, you use it like a hook, and you might want to use this handle as a weapon. You would break it most likely over time. I can actually already see in this one that there's a major flash line between the two pieces of wood. So that's a matter of time. And also water. If water gets to your Tonfas and there's a glued joint on the handle, this might split most likely. So I'm gonna be really careful to make sure I don't let this stay out in the rain or something. I mean, you wouldn't want to do that with any of your weapons, but that would be a problem. So that's my review on this new Tonfa. But other than that, the handle is fantastic. The length is perfect. This one, I believe, is a 20-inch Tonfa, which is longer than the 18-inch that I was using. It has a really heavy, solid weight to it. So basically, if I were to strike someone with this, they would take a beating. This will beat the shit out of you. But as far as extension, it's fantastic. It lengthens my reach, and as you can see, it just spins on its own. It's a joy to spin. That handle really does work very, very well. And the wood is very, very hard, very solid and heavy. So that all helps. This also has two wooden dowel pegs to reinforce the mortise and tenon that's here. But one other thing I would notice about the mortise and tenon, I can't tell for sure, but I want to say there might be a split in it, so I might be a little worried about that in the future. Hopefully it doesn't break on me anytime soon, but if you know anything about me and weapons, I put them to use. So I'll know if it fails on me pretty soon. I'm not exactly sure what they did with this mortise and tenon, so the craftsmanship could have been fudged a little bit. And the thing is, with weapons, you can't fudge craftsmanship. It really will show when you put them to use. So you definitely want to, look out for a good pair of Tonfa. If you ever can go to like a karate store or a physical place, obviously that's going to be great, but they're very few, almost none. What I would say is take my recommendations. I can put the link here for you to buy these Tonfa. You can buy them right through me, and I'm sure you'd enjoy them. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon.